Today on Pro Church Daily, we're talking about how churches can reach millennials using podcasts.
Well, hey there, and welcome to Pro Church Daily, the show where in 10 minutes or less, you'll get your daily dose of tips and tactics to help your church share the message of Jesus while we navigate the biggest communication shift that we've seen in the last 500 years. I'm your host, Alex Mills. I'm joined as always by the boss man, it's Brady Shearer, and today we're talking about how churches can reach millennials using podcasts.
I was reading through the Barna 2018 Trends book, looking up at all the most recent data that they've captured for faith, culture, leadership, and the church in 2018. And one thing that stood out to me was they had a whole section on podcasts. And 23% of all adults listen to podcasts currently. My prediction is that we have not yet reached peak podcast.
Right.
And the reason for that is because the generation that listens to podcasts more than any other generation is, perhaps surprisingly, perhaps not, millennials.
Yeah.
42% of millennials listen to podcasts, 30% of Gen X, 10% of boomers, 5% of elders. And so out of every generation, millennials are listening to podcasts more than anyone else in any other age group. And I'll let you speak personally for you, Alex, but podcasts are by far the biggest form of content that I consume. I listen to faith podcasts, to sports podcasts, to business podcasts, AirPods. It's very rare that I don't have one in at any point. And I think you're pretty similar.
And I think that's part of the reason that this is reflected in the data with millennials is because we are generally the pioneers of Bluetooth technology and wireless headphones. You'll be much more prone to see a millennial wearing a set of Bluetooth headphones like AirPods or what have you than you would someone their parents' age. And so that's opened a new door for us to be listening to things while we're on the move and not have, cords dangling and whatever. So whenever I'm in the car by myself or running errands or at work, I always have a set of headphones on and I'm always listening to podcasts to the point where if I go away and I don't have the chance to keep up with the daily podcast that I'm listening to, I'll get back from a trip and have this measure of podcast anxiety because I feel like I have so much to catch up on. So now I'm listening to them at 2 times speed and it's a deep hole. But yeah, I'm listening to podcasts all the time.
Mostly because silence is the enemy, lest we be left alone with our own thoughts.
Right.
At least that's what my mother thinks why I listen to podcasts so much. And so I think this presents churches with a unique opportunity to leverage this medium of podcasting to reach an age group that is attending church at historically low numbers. We talked about the advantages of podcasting, namely for me, and likewise, you alluded to this, it allows you to multitask.
Yeah.
Reading or watching videos don't allow you to do that because you have to be engaged fully in the content, but I can listen to podcasts while putting together dinner, while mowing the lawn, while walking the dog, while lifting the weights, while driving the car, and so many other physical activities. I can still keep my mind engaged. And so I've got 3 ideas here for types of podcasts that churches can put together. And I think this is particularly helpful for churches as well, because yes, podcasting skews to the millennial demographic, but it also skews, interestingly enough, to the Christian and church demographic. Listen to this. 17% of practicing Christians are listening daily to podcasts, and that's all ages, compared to just 6% of non-Christians of all ages. So that's 3 times as many.
Yeah.
Christians love our podcasts, and a huge part of that is because of sermons and because churches are built around content. Right? Like if you're into the real estate game, it's probably... You're not going to listen to as many podcasts as a Christian is because, there just aren't too many messages that the real estate agents are preaching. So 3 ideas for churches, types of podcasts you're going to create. And you'll notice what's missing from this. We're not going to talk about the podcast that would take up 90% of what churches do, which is just taking your message and putting it into a feed. We're talking about using the native medium to create content specifically for it, rather than just rebroadcasting content from one platform to another.
Awesome.
So the first is a Q&A podcast. This is idea number 1. There are so many Christians that are dealing with doubt. 2 out of every 3 Christians admit to experiencing a season of spiritual doubt, and more than a quarter of Christians still find themselves doubting right now. Christianity, faith in God, is, like we always say, a matter of existentialness. There is so much that goes into faith, hope, love, trusting, and living and following the life of Jesus. It is very difficult. It is impossible. And there's so much doubt that goes into that. Christians have so many questions. Millennials have so many questions. For you to do a Q&A podcast and to confront those questions in a real way, not try to skirt the issues, not try to pretend that they don't exist, but to confront them and take them head on is a great way to engage a younger audience that is leaving church at a huge rate, historically attending church at a low rate, and a part of that comes from the disconnect between what churches are saying and perhaps the doubts that they have.
Yeah, I love that idea. We've talked about maybe doing Q&As on your church's Facebook page, doing some live Q&As. We mentioned a church that is doing that really well, and I think that's great. But I personally would be much more prone to listen to a podcast form because, it's going to get automatically downloaded to my phone. I don't have to get onto Facebook when you're going live and doing a live Q&A with the pastors. And the podcast platform really lends well to that convenience. As soon as it's released, it's going to be on my device and I'm ready to listen to it. I love that idea.
Idea number 2, conversational podcast amongst your church staff. We did this at the church that I served at as a media director when I was in Bible college. We called it church radio, and we always said it like that. And this was the leadership talking about current events, talking about culture, and really just, talking like we would at regular staff meetings behind the scenes. What that allows you to do is welcome your congregation into the life of the leadership, and now they feel like a part of it.
Yeah, this is cool. I love this idea, and it doesn't have to take too much time to facilitate something like this. You could take one day a week and just have your lunch. If your staff has lunch together, have your lunch with some microphones live on the table.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be much more than that. It doesn't have to be a conversation inherently about these existential matters. It can just be about life and sports and current events, whatever it is. Just inviting your community into a deeper level of relationship with you. I love this idea.
I mean, your congregation is so used to seeing you on stage, maybe in your Sunday best with your prepared sermon.
Yeah.
Let them see you off the cuff, behind the scenes, not nearly as polished. It's going to allow you to welcome them into your own humanity and your own just everyday self, and that's going to build rapport and community that way.
Love it.
Final idea, and this goes along with that similar building rapport everyday self, is a 10-minute or less off-the-cuff podcast. There are several business podcasts that I listen to that do this, where I know, based on the audio quality, that the host is just taking out their phone while driving, and they're a busy person, a CEO of a huge company, and they're just like, I'm going to take these 10 minutes or less, Pro Church Daily style almost, and talk about what's going on right now. And this is kind of like Instagram stories for audio. You can, you could have just come out of a great conversation with your wife, and you're like, or your husband, you're like, man, that was a great little conflict resolution we had there. I'm going to record a quick podcast and talk about what we just figured out and just share that experience, share that story. And again, this is a great way, very guerrilla style, low tech, just take out your phone, talk into the receiver. You can get a number of different mics to plug in. We tried that, but with phones nowadays, the quality is pretty close. And just go for it.
I think that's a great idea. As a pastor, there's always things that are happening in my life that are speaking to me in the form of sermon illustrations. And so my process is I take out my phone, my Evernote, and I write these mini stories down there. But often when something happens in my life that inspires a story or a worthy sermon illustration, in the moment I'm like, oh, I want to tell somebody about this. But no, I'm just going to log into my phone and wait until I'm preaching a sermon that has something to do with this. You don't have to do that anymore. You can share it with your community right away if you want to.
Seize the 167. Don't wait for the one. And there are several podcasts that have blown up that are not sermon podcasts. Like two that come to mind are The Liturgists and Bad Christian. They have huge followings. Now, those aren't church specific, but we're starting to see actual churches produce podcasts. One that recently came out that has been making the rounds and become pretty widely popular, at least in my circles, is This Cultural Moment, which was done by Bridgetown Church and Red Church. So two churches doing this together.
Okay.
And so there are examples of churches doing this and making waves in their own communities and the communities that are more global and abroad. And so we think there are many opportunities for your church to engage with this. 3 different ideas that you can explore. Number 1, the Q&A podcast. Number 2, the conversational podcast amongst church staff and leadership. And number 3, 10 minutes or less off the cuff. Frankly, all 3 of these could be 10 minutes or less. We batch produce Pro Church Daily. We film 6 of them at once. You could do something similar. You don't need to do daily content. Just do 1 a week. Start there. See how it goes.
Yeah.
That'll do it for today's episode of Pro Church Daily. Thanks for watching. Hey, thanks for watching today's episode of Pro Church Daily. Make sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss another video.
And I know you like this one, so why don't you tell us, hit it with a thumbs up, and like it, like it, like it, like it.
See you tomorrow! Prepare to be reached, Brandon. That's right. You're gonna get you're gonna get reached by the Lord using podcasts hard. All right.